Tiffany. And I know it sounded real weak because I usually have two more people with me. But we have like one of the most amazing-ist person ever. Like, Shan, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a super fan, and I'm like trying not to freak out.
No, you're doing a great job, and we could have practiced the beginnings that we did together.
Oh, we could have.
So it could have, but I think it's different because those are your two homies. So like, there's something always missing if they're not here.
Yes, they're like, you got this, girl. Like when I told them about the interview, Shan Boody, like, I'm just so happy to be here. But okay, so a little bit about Shan. She is a sexologist. She is a dating expert. She is an author. She's a writer. She's a host. She is just an amazing YouTuber. I like literally watch all of your YouTube.
Yes!
Yeah, like amazing. And she's just a down to earth chick. She's non-judgmental. She's very open, and I'm very grateful for you. Like your YouTube videos help me be more productive, help me be able to find myself, and just your openness about everything. So she's not like just a sexologist, even though she's an expert at this stuff, but she really like lets us into her life, and I'm just so grateful.
No, this is an awesome suit. I didn't actually like compliment how beautiful this is.
Thank you.
Honestly, this is like that intro was so hard to live up to. Like, imagine I'm just gonna go into like an hour of like pro-Trump campaigning, and everything that you've said has been like, and never mind, she's actually an awful person in real life.
No, not at all. But you do have a new book out. It's been out for a while. The Game of Desire.
Yes.
And I mean, I could tell the people about it, but just tell me how this came about. Why did you want to write about the Game of Desire? Because I've been single for 5 years, and I was like, I need to be one of those girls in her boot camp.
100%. That's exactly why.
Yeah.
I wrote my first book late in 2009, and that book was written because I had a really awful teen sex life, and I was looking for a resource that the 18-year-old version of me would have picked up and would have actually learned something from and become a better person from. And I knew myself at that time would not have picked up the Kinsey Institute book, would not have picked up Masters and Johnson. They would have gone for something interesting, salacious, exciting, with real people, real stories, and people who I felt I could relate to. Right. And so 10 years later, when I wanted to write a book about dating that was for the version of me who was single for years on end and who did enter into relationships that were not the healthiest for me, when I thought about that person, I'm like, okay, what would Shan have picked up, 8 years ago? Right. Would she have picked up how to get the guy? Probably not. Would she have picked up, hey, you're single and it's a struggle for you, so read this book because you need it? Yeah. But I might have picked up a story about real women, their journeys, their experiences, and what they learned along the way. And so this book was written for me. It was written for people who maybe aren't accustomed to picking up dating books per se. Yeah. But this book to me is so much more than a dating book. It's a book about making intimacy your superpower. And it's how I took 6 women who felt left out of the connection narrative and how I put them in the driver's seat of not just their love lives, but their intimate lives in general. And it's a real story, so whether you want to read it because it's interesting to see what happens when 6 strangers get together and force a relationship in a really unconventional way, or if you want to read it for the tips, I think it's got something for everybody.
It definitely does. I wanted to ask, how did you even come up with this concept? Because when I started reading it, I was like, this is different than any book I've ever read in my life. And I read a lot of books, but I'm like, okay, wow, this is so different and it's such a journey. So how did you come up with this concept of having basically a love relationship boot camp?
Yeah, it was, YouTube, really. You read your YouTube comments and you see like, well, this could work for you, but you have got preference in the dating world because of the way that you look. Or maybe this worked for that person, but they're white. Or this person's skinny. Or this person's that. So everyone's always looking for ways to discount how information can apply to them, and I didn't want that. I didn't want people to read this book and say this isn't for me. And so it was important to show not just the information, the stats, the studies behind it, but how it actually worked on real people, and real people from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of body types, all kinds of just even dating flaws. So diversity was so important to me because I didn't want anyone to cancel themselves out.
Right. This is so good. Can you do another round so I could be in it? No, I'm just kidding. No, the book literally does break it down for you so you can do it by yourself anyways. And I actually went on a date yesterday.
Congratulations.
I did, girl.
Was it fun?
It was fun, and I actually did use a lot of your methods. But it was great. So I actually did use Vaping.
Wow.
I said I have to do this because I'm about to interview her tomorrow. And girl, when I said this man was all up on my neck.
Really?
Girl, I was like, oh my God, like he's getting so close. He was just like, oh, I just want to bite you. I just want to kiss you. I was like, oh, you're a little too pushy, but I'm like, I maybe need to calm down on the Vaping.
Yeah.
But can you explain? I know that was like one of the big headlines is like Vaping, you got some backlash, but I think it's an amazing thing, like the science behind it and how you were just saying like it's really the belief that something works.
100%. So Vaping is taking your vaginal fluids directly from the source, like from the Bartholin gland, the opening of your vagina, and applying that like you would apply perfume. So you'd apply it to your neck, anywhere that distributes heat in your body. So like your pressure points, also your hands, because you talk with your hands as well too. And that's it. It's vaginal fluid as perfume. Yes. And I think a lot of people had a really big, I think people have a big reaction to it. I didn't think it would be as big as it was, but I'm actually really, really humbled. I think it's so cool that you tried it.
Yeah.
And I think that exactly what you just said is true. Like the main thing with Vaping is there is no scientific proof, because to smell a pheromone, it takes a certain part of the brain that humans don't have developed in the same way that other animals do.
Right.
So, for example, dogs, when they meet each other, they just sniff booty right away.
They do.
Like that's how they collect so much information, is through another animal's pheromones, where we don't really do that. We don't collect information about someone else's DNA the same way through our sense of smell. Yeah. So there's like a lot of scientific proof that says that we don't respond to pheromones in the same way that other animals do. And there's some scientific proof that says there might be. Yeah. And so we're kind of going off of the might be, but more than anything else, I think if it just gives you an excuse to be bold, try something different, and an experiment always makes something a bit more fun.
Yeah, it really does. And I don't know, it's something just very powerful about doing that. Because, I mean, honestly, I don't know who else does. It's like in the shower, I always smell myself. Like, like, okay, how's it doing down there? So I was like, okay, I don't know. I feel like the vagina is very powerful. So to put my juices, oh my God, my soulmates are going to be like, what are you talking about, girl? But they know I'm crazy. But to put my juices on my skin, I just felt really powerful. And it makes sense. You know, it makes sense like that it would attract people to you, because I mean, men be down there anyways.
Well, like that's the whole thing. Like, you know, in movies, like dudes do this to each other if they after they've been with a woman, because like that smell is wonderful. Like men pay for women's used underwear. Yeah, I've had so many offers in my DMs for people to like buy my underwear or my socks.
Okay, that's weird.
So many is wrong, maybe a couple, but nonetheless, I think that like we are attracted to the smells of bodies. I think that consumerism tells us that you have to overcorrect. Like your natural scent is awful. Put on deodorant. Use this soap. Use this body cream. Use this perfume. Use this hairspray. And it's just like, what's so disgusting about our bodies?
Yeah, seriously. And even like vaginas in particularly, it's just like, even like our periods, all this stuff, I mean, it's not a nasty thing when you think about it. It's just who we are and a part of us. But like in the beginning, well, throughout the entire book, you tap onto basically a lot of the inner work before you even get into the actual tips. Yeah, into the that is like further down the line. All these experiments are further down the line, but I really appreciate that first you made sure people were good, your girls were good with themselves on the inside. So if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, like I think anything in life, you have to start with the foundation. You have to know your strengths, your weaknesses. You have to work on the basics, and you have to know who you are. You know, if you wanted to become a great basketball player, you wouldn't start by doing like a behind the back dunk. You have to start with dribbling. You got to start with foot control and footwork and adrenaline. You have to start, not adrenaline, what's the word I'm looking for? Endurance.
Yes.
You got to start with the basic training to get yourself the foundational supports that you can add those tips on top of it.
Yeah.
I think what usually happens, I think, with men and women dating books is that women dating books are all theory and ideas and messages. Like, be your best self, love yourself, embrace your bitch, embrace your prude, use the, embrace your inner goddess. And it's just like, those are all like theoretical things, which are great. And I think what men's sex and dating books do is it's all tips. Yeah. So it's all like, do this, this, that, and the third. But like it's the two together that really make the biggest impact. You have to really do the self work, know yourself, find out what your mantra is, find out what your purpose is, and lead with that first. And that also takes knowing what you're not good at, you know, where your weak areas are. And then once you've done that and developed a strong foundation, now we can do tips and experiments. Now we can try different strategies. And so those two combined, I think, make the perfect recipe for true self-development.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't really even think about, there's so many men, like relationship books, and we read them and they're good and everything, but maybe the reason why I resonated so much with yours is because it is from a woman. I'm so used to actually reading relationship books based off of like a man's perspective.
That's fascinating. I actually don't know of I know a couple.
Really?
Yeah. Like, what are some ones that you
like? Steve Harvey's, the regulars,
yes.
or even on YouTube or something. Even like we were talking about the roommates earlier. They give like dating advice and stuff like that. And so it's just like, I'm just glad to see like more women actually saying like, I've been through this. This is what you should do, because no one's in our shoes until they're in our shoes.
100%. Yeah. And it is different. I mean, I think my next book.
Yes, girl.
Into the universe it goes. And in my next book, it took me 10 years to write this one. I really hope I'm not on the same trajectory. I hope this one is way sooner than that. But I think I would want to include men and women's perspectives. I think I really just honed in on women for this one. Yes. But there's so much we can learn from each other.
There is. Oh my God, I love that you say that, because that's kind of what Soul Filling is about, especially when we do our live shows. Our next live show, this is exclusive. I really want to tackle self-love, but from both Black men. Okay, our audience is mostly black men and Black women, just so that we could hear each other out, to see like, okay, these are my insecurities, and also as a Black man, what are your insecurities, and how can we help each other? Because you're right, it shouldn't be, I mean, it's okay to be one-sided sometimes, but to come together to get a full perspective of everybody, that's really going to help us grow. So I can't wait till your book comes out. Honestly, like,
I can't wait till your tour happens.
Okay. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's on, like, the to-do list. Like, you got to come out because it's going to be amazing. We're going to stop in LA and we're going to have Shan Boody. But, yeah, spit it out there. But, yeah. Wait, I lost my train of thought. Oh, my gosh. What were we talking about? Oh, men and women together. Yeah, so anyways, let's get back into it. So we talk about what I love when you first opened up with the girls. You were talking about managing expectations, and I realized that's something that I need to do more of, because I kind of think that everybody already knows what I want, or why don't you know, like, not to treat me this way, like, why wouldn't you know this? And I like with how you manage expectations with the girls, and this is like where you could do in any type of relationship. It's basically say like, you're like, I don't care if you really do like, you cared if they do the worksheets and stuff like that, but I more so want you to communicate where you're at. So how did you come up with that, or what experiences have you gone through to make you realize like, oh, I gotta manage this expectation?
Yeah, like I said in the book, that like conflict is going to happen, right? Like conflict is a natural part of life. You have 20x years of being you on this planet the way that you have learned through your upbringing, etc., etc. I have 30x years on this planet, and so the likelihood that we're going to align on everything, that what seems common sense to me will be common to you, is pretty slim when you look at it from that vantage point. So all the assumptions that we make of people should just know, it's like, how could they? They haven't lived life in your shoes, and so people aren't going to know unless you educate them. And so conflict is going to happen just by virtue of the fact that we're different people trying to share one relationship. And so if you know that, there's only two ways conflict can happen, externally or internally. Either I can address something with you and like have that awkward moment of saying like, you were on time today. But if it was like, hey, just so you know, like, it's very important for people to keep their time appointments with me because I've got back-to-back stuff, right? I could say that, or I could say nothing and then be like, oh, they came late, and now I'm stressed out, and then this entire time you're relaxed, you're comfortable because you're just doing you, but internally I'm super stressed out. So it's like, it's gonna happen regardless, and the only way to make sure it doesn't happen repeatedly is by voicing it to somebody else. Because it's not going to go away. I don't think conflict ever stops. It never just disappears. And if something bothers you, more than likely, it's not like with repeated exposure, you'll start tolerating it more. If anything, it'll start to create like a resentment. So I just think it's one of those things where if you acknowledge that, look, not saying anything is not going to make the conflict go away. It's just going to make it 100% on me. And I don't want to live a life like that.
You're totally right. And the reason I was looking at you like that, because I'm like, that's something I really have to deal with, because I do not like confrontation at all. But also, you know, if I don't speak up, if I don't say something, it's like toxic in my own body, and you can literally feel it, like feeling anxiousness. You're mad at the person; they don't even know you're mad at them.
Exactly.
It's like, why are you mad? But just having the courage to just tell someone like, this is what I want, or this is what I didn't like. But I love that it's about perspectives, because of course, like, how are they supposed to know they did something wrong if you didn't tell them? And
on the flip side, something right. You know what's interesting? I was doing something the other day where somebody said, like, communication is often seen as negative. Like, when we give the advice of, like, you have to communicate in relationships, you got to communicate in the bedroom, people hear that and they say, when I don't like something, I have to tell somebody. It's like, yes, but when you do like something, you should also communicate. When someone did something really great, like when they showed up on time, and say, thank you so much for honoring the time commitment. I know you're super busy and LA is hella hard to get around. I really appreciate that you did that, because that also tells that person that, oh, she values someone being on time. You know, if somebody comes up on a date and they pay the bill, even saying like, you know what, you didn't have to do that, but that's really, really sweet of you. That is just as important as saying to the person, you know, I kind of thought that you'd pick up the bill this time because I picked it up last time.
Ooh. Yeah, that's so much better to say that. I totally agree with that. And I hate to go back to the negative part, but I was talking to my mom about this, because like I was telling you earlier, we had a live show about 2 weeks ago, and with planning an event, you know, you have to literally be really detailed on the things that you want, like what you want the volunteers to do, what you want the host to do, what you want the DJ to do. And being that we're all women and we're pretty much like very super nice people, we don't always vocalize exactly if something's going wrong. And the way my mom brung it to me when I was like telling her about it, she was just saying, and I was saying I was doing a disservice to them because I didn't tell them, and now I have a feeling towards them because I didn't tell them this certain thing. But then she flipped it on me. She's like, no, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you're putting all this money into this event, and by you not telling them is doing a disservice to you. They're okay and all going on being happy, but you didn't have the turnout, even though it was amazing, that you really wanted. And I was like, dang, you know, a lot of times I think as women or as anybody that we put ourselves last, and we're just trying to make sure everyone else is good, that we don't think, okay, how am I being a disservice to myself? So I was like, dang. So, you know, mom was always right. I was really trying to hear her out. I was like, because I think I know everything, but she really like helped me out on that part. But you talk about attachment theory, and I heard you on the Friend Zone podcast. Obviously, you know that I listen to a lot of podcasts,
and, which is amazing.
Yes, I do. And the Friend Zone podcast is amazing. Shout out to Hey Friend and Hey, another person that's like amazing in my mind.
Mine too.
Yes. Oh my gosh, everybody does it. Everyone. So talk about attachment theory, and I took the test twice. And the funny thing is, in my office, I work for a company called Be Busy Inc. We do free HIV testing and syphilis testing. And I do their social media. And so I'm in a room with 4 other people. Like months ago, we all did your attachment theory test. We all did the commitment test. We all did the what turns you on test. We do our work as well. But it was so funny to see how everybody's different results were. But I like that you're able to, even with this book, you're able to go along with worksheets and take these tests to figure out your inner works. What made you do that? What made you add on at that point?
You need it. Like, I mean, it's so important. And going back to sort of like that you're talking about at the event, the disservice that happens on both ends. Like, communication is so important because it empowers you. And when someone feels empowered, they feel good. So if I can tell you exactly what it is that I want, you're like, great, I know how to love Shan. Boom. Yeah. And I feel amazing because I know I can do something great for you. And then I feel good because I get what I want in return. And so communication has to be twofold, right? And what I love about love languages, for example, I think it's the first time that the closest thing we've come to having universal language around intimacy. And we don't learn about love in school. We don't learn emotional intelligence in school. Of course, we learn nothing about sex. And so
Nothing.
there's not a lot of like language that we can all understand.
Mhm.
And so when we're trying to communicate really important things about what we need in life, we don't have the words for them, which is why I think quizzes are really important.
Mhm.
Because now it's like you have a word for yours, I have a
Mhm.
word for mine, and if we can both sort of understand each other's words, that's just so much more power. And I love that you do these quizzes in groups because that's really important to acknowledge that, oh, damn, I thought everybody would be a modern monogamist.
Yes.
You know, I thought everybody would be securely attached like me. I thought everybody's love language was words of affirmation.
Right.
And you're like, no, aha moment, like what really fuels me might be different from what really fuels somebody else. And that just really reinforces why communication, again, is so massively important. But with communication, it's one thing to know that we have to talk. It's a completely separate other skill to say, here's what we should talk about. Because I think it's like you tell people all the time, like you have to communicate in relationships. And yet again, we don't give them the tools or the jump off points to have these important dialogues. And so the quizzes are meant to be that sparking off point.
It is a sparking point because even when we were doing it in our group setting, it was really fun because it's funny too because we're like, oh, you're for sure gonna get this, and then it's like, wait, you're not even that person. So it's really good to figure out other people so that you know how to treat them. And I was actually talking to my Uber driver on the way to the airport when I was coming to LA. I love Uber drivers because they just talk about everything with you. Like they tell their whole life story. You tell them your whole life story. I'm like, do I need to be an Uber driver and just put a camera there? And we have like Uber stories. Ooh, that's good. But she was telling me about like her husband, and she was telling me like how it's not working out. She's like, I love him and stuff like that, but he just doesn't understand. And I did bring up like the 5 love languages. I was like, because he's like, he keeps showering me with gifts when we're upset, but all I really want is him to tell me like I'm enough, like I'm good, like that I would rather have a love note written instead of a diamond ring. And I was like, well, maybe he doesn't know your love languages, like the 5. Have you ever heard of the 5 love languages? She was like, no. And so we talked about that, but it's just very important for you to know your love language and so that you can love someone, you can know someone else's love language so you can love them the way they want to be loved.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm learning out here, and I'm at a point in my life that I'm like dating. I'm 27 and I do want a husband, but also I just feel like I also want to have fun.
Yeah.
So with that, I get a little confused. I feel like you're my therapist right now. I'm like, tell you everything. I feel a little confused on like, they were like, okay, so what do you really want? I was like, yeah, I want a husband. But meanwhile, while I'm trying to meet him, some people I just want to have fun with. How do I go about that? Because I know in one of the chapters you were talking about, who do you want to be with? Like, do you want to, I forget what it's called, like someone to finance you, someone to just hang out with, just or someone who's like your soulmate, lifelong partner. And for me, I feel like, you know, I'm cool. I do want a long life partner. I do want a husband, but I also, meanwhile, want to have fun.
Yeah. I think it's not dissimilar from where a lot of people are at your age, job-wise.
Yeah.
Where you're like, look, like I would love to have my forever job right now, but ultimately too, I'm getting to know myself, and I don't mind having a full-time job, a part-time job, and a side hustle. And through all these experiences, I'm actually growing and making myself a better fit whenever I do, if I ever do find that one lifelong position that I want to be in for 40 plus years.
Right.
So I think that sort of approach of every experience, as long as I'm curating these experiences. I'm a really big fan of when people are like, well, you know, every experience teaches us something, and every experience, I don't regret anything because I learned it made me who I am today. There's definitely experiences that I regret. There are relationships that I participated in that didn't move me forward. They actually pushed me back 5 years in terms of self-discovery. And coming out of that relationship, it wasn't like now I can move on to my next great thing. I actually had to rediscover who I was. It's like you take on that job that drains you, that it's awful, you have a toxic boss, and when you leave that, you didn't gain any of the skills that you need towards the actual career that you dream of. And if anything, now you have to go to therapy to try to heal from some of the trauma that happened there. So I'm not a fan of like, we'll just go for it because every experience has value. Like there's just some things in life you can learn from reading. You don't have to like, you know, have your money stolen to realize you don't want your money stolen.
Yeah, I want
that. I didn't need to experience that to recognize I wouldn't have wanted that for myself. But I think
so true.
if you're curating the experiences and you're true to what you need based on knowing who you are, you do the workbook. And that's why the order is there from the book, right? You got to know who you are, know what experiences are going to bring out the best in you. And if you find a romantic partner that does just that, even if they're only for 2 days, you'll still leave that situation and be a little better off.
Yeah.
So I feel like as long as you have that in the forefront of your mind, I just want to be a little bit better off through each person I connect with. If that leads you to your best romantic partner, great. But as you know in the book, my suggestion is opening up different job postings for each role you're looking for. Because then it becomes also too, like if you meet somebody and you know in your mind, yeah, I would love a long-term partner, but I also wouldn't mind somebody who is a church buddy,
right,
that I actually make out with, or whatever the actual stipulation is for that. Or I wouldn't mind somebody who's a travel buddy. So if I'm on a date with somebody, I'm not looking at them only through the lens of, is this my person?
Right.
I'm also like, oh yeah, I also want a church buddy. I actually don't see them as my person, but I do see them as a good church buddy candidate. Let me manage expectations now to see if they would also be in line with that role.
And that's the part, I think that's the part where I trip up at, is managing those expectations. Because I don't know, I'm always like, we'll just see. Like, we'll see. Maybe you are. Maybe, even though I don't think you're my person, maybe you are my person. So I'm like, okay, let's just have fun. And I'm like, how do I vocalize? I just want a friend to have fun with and occasionally kiss and cuddle.
Yeah. I think just that.
Oh, okay.
I think that's fine. You know, if you're just like, at this present time in my life, I'm traveling a lot. I have a really big growing business. We're going on tour. I want a long-term partner eventually, but I can't see how right now maybe our schedules would fit to align with that. Right. But I love spending time with you. I think you're really great. I think your lips are hella hot. I would like to kiss them.
Yeah.
But I'm not at this present time saying that's going to lead to something further.
Right.
And I'm open to having this dialogue constantly. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm married, my friends would benefit.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happened with he and I, where in that we created a rule for each other and said, this is the capacity in which I'm willing to partner with you. I don't want anything else other than like, this is like, see you at 9 p.m.
Yes.
And if I leave at 10:30, don't get offended. And then through us successfully doing that relationship over a few months, we started to expand the connection, and then we evolved the conversation. Yeah. So nothing is forever, but at least people know. Just like when you get a job at a company and you come in as a junior assistant, that's not like for the rest of your life. I think that once you can acknowledge that somebody is offering you just whatever it is, I think the thing that happens a lot too is that people, they confuse hope with what's been said. So if someone says, I'm not looking for a relationship, and they act in a I'm not looking for a relationship manner, but then once in a while they might give somebody a little bit more, they start to like use that as a way to say, well, they're confusing me. Where it's like they kind of communicated to you very clearly what the boundaries are, and then maybe they've given you a couple of hope strings along the way, but if you can really assess and be honest about what it is, you'll be happier, and you'll be happier in that connection, or happy to leave it alone. Yeah,
that's good. It's like a lot of people do actually tell you exactly what they want.
Do you tell people exactly what you want?
No.
No?
I do and I don't. Because, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm passive aggressive. Actually, I do tell people what I want. Like, this one guy, I feel like I'm talking to a lot of guys. I'm like, who's listening, though? Yeah. There's one guy I've been talking to, and I told him straight up what I'm looking for is consistency, and he was super consistent, and then he wasn't consistent anymore. So I just took that as, all right, then you don't want to really be with me if you can't be consistent, because I clearly told you what I wanted. And then other people, I don't literally vocalize it. It's just like I just act that way, like we're just friends, or oh, you want to hang out, or you know, something like that. I don't be like, I'm trying to be your wife.
Yeah. But I you know what it is? I actually tweeted this yesterday that I don't like fast friends And I also have learned not to like fast relationships either.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go into getting to know somebody with the intention of this ultimate role they're going to be? Like, there's so many steps between now and marriage. There's so much of you that I don't know yet.
Yeah.
So, like, how can I slot you into a role that's so aspirational?
Right.
Like, I wouldn't hire someone onto my company to be a CEO. I'd probably have them first as a supervisor, see how they meshed with the people, see how people responded to them, see how I felt they understood my messaging. And like, there's so much to know about somebody before you're like, that's my husband or that's my wife.
Right.
So I think that that's one of those things where we start connecting and we define what it is that we want right now, which maybe it's like, yeah, I'm only dating exclusively like 3 people, and I'm with all in mind of potentially partnering with one of them as a long-term relationship.
Right.
And we'll see where it goes.
I totally agree with that, and I didn't look at it like that, but I think a lot of us do be like, okay, where's that one? Are you my husband? No, you're not my husband. Let me move on. Like, and I've been that way. But yeah, I just
totally and again, we don't do that with jobs.
We don't do that,
right? We accept that the job process is slow and that we're going to take on a job that's good for us where we are right now. And maybe in 2 years might say, you know what, this actually is my dream job.
Yeah.
But we still have this process of I have a long life to live. And so every job is just an opportunity for me to exercise what I know and learn a little bit more. Yeah. And I'll figure out how I feel as the job process unfolds. But I don't go into every situation being like, this is the one, right? Yeah.
That's so true. And then another thing that I've been thinking about is also dating within your circle or like working circle, which I found a little weird because I'm like, oh, I actually like this person and I want to work with them forever. So like if I start dating them, that's weird. And what if we start hating each other, but I still want you to perform at my open show? Like I'm like at my live show. So I'm like very careful with even jumping into like saying dating, even though we might just hang out together. Have you ever had that situation where or do you stay out that situation? I mean, I know you're married now, but in the past, have you ever dated someone who you like work with or who you would like to work with or who's in your circle?
Yeah, it's natural. The number one determinant of if people are going to connect is proximity.
Yeah.
So that just means the more time you spend around somebody, the more likely you are to form a romantic interest in them. So by virtue of that, if you're working with somebody, like it's natural that you might be like, okay, like, you know, I've gotten to know you slowly. That exploration process has been organic or forced because we're paid to hang out, I guess, in some ways. So I think that it's natural to happen. But yeah, I think you made a great point that you have to keep an eye out to be like, okay, is this actually a good, healthy choice for me? Or is this something that I'm doing just because we're spending a lot of time together?
Right.
And also risk assessing that, yes, if this goes wrong, will this make things awkward? And what have I noticed about this person's personality that makes me believe that they would be capable of being cordial afterwards or not be capable? So I think that it's just a matter of, you know, I'm a big fan of love happening and love being the ultimate goal of life. Like I am a person who very rarely believes that people should date or can date their friends' exes. If you really see a strong connection with somebody, and at the end of the day, if you and me are best friends, it's likely that we're going to get along with the same kinds of people. So the person that you choose a romantic partner might also be of interest to me. And so if I see a long-term future with your ex and it really is a strong bond, like why would you want to get in the way of love? But that's like not a popular opinion, but
that's really interesting that you say that, because I was listening to the Friend Zone. I don't know if you listened to that episode, and I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh my God, am I a bad person? Because I don't think I would actually date, especially my best friends, like lovers. But if it was like super down the line in high school, I don't know. I feel like if we love each other, isn't that more important? We're supposed to be together forever.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on this earth once. I mean, whatever you believe in, and I would like to live it with love and very purposefully and with the one I'm divine to be with. But I was like, I was scared to say that because I brought that episode up at my job. We talk a lot at our job. And I was like, what do y'all think? And everybody was saying the ladder. Is it the ladder? And I was like, ooh, let me just keep my opinion to myself before y'all think I'm trash out here. But Kobe, Jasmine, you don't have to worry. I'm good.
They can date your exes.
Oh yeah, they could date mine. I mean, because honestly, and that's actually a topic I wanted to bring up. Because honestly, whoever I dated in the past, I really don't care. The only thing that would be weird is to always see them if it was like my best friend and the guy I was with for 7 years. And so, but honestly, I have no ties because I just want to be with the one who's like my soulmate.
Yeah.
Because I'm so, and I want the person that I used to date to be with their soulmate. I want them to be happy because I love them so much. And that's something like you were basically talking about intentionally dating when you're curating who you want to be with, whether it's just a friend or if it's just your romantic partner forever. And I think that's what I had to do like last Christmas is my ex-boyfriend, he would always come over on Christmas or the holidays, and it was just becoming such a normal thing. And even though I knew within my soul it's like that's not my husband, unfortunately, because I love him so much. But that we couldn't do that anymore. And it wasn't until my brother was like, so and so still coming over, are you gonna be doing this until you? Is he gonna start keep on coming to over the house until you're 30 and you're still like with no one because you're still tied to that person? And that's the thing that had me click and say, oh my god, like I need to communicate with him how I feel. Like you can't come over anymore. Like I can't be that person for you anymore. We can't hang out anymore. Unfortunately for me, because I feel like I can't move on if you're still just so close.
Yeah.
And I know that doesn't happen for everyone. Some people can be with their exes and doesn't face them at all. They can move on. But for me, it was such a tie that I had to literally really sit down with them, have that crying conversation. And it hurts so bad, but at the end of the day, it needed to be done because I'm doing not only myself a disservice, I'm doing him a disservice. So that was really tough.
Good for you.
That was really
it's
tough.
about being honest about yourself. I think like the game of desire, right? And people don't like games and relationships, but most of the game is gaming yourself, right? It's like knowing how you show up as the best version of you and strategizing to put yourself in those circumstances and being honest about who you're not.
Yeah.
Being honest about what situations you can't handle. And so a lot of the gaming is, yeah, I know that if as long as I'm with my ex, I'll never actually truly be invested in finding new partnerships. And so even though it feels good for me or I enjoy it to some level, it actually is not serving my highest intention for my intimate self. So I have to cut it off, you know, or even like it might feel really great for me to have a friends with benefits, but it distracts me from making more meaningful connections, or vice versa. Having a friends with benefits allows me to focus more on other people because I don't feel the same desperation to have sex with any random person.
Honestly.
So a lot of the game, I think, is gaming yourself so that you can show up as the version of you that you're like, I love that person.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And intimacy has really been very big on my mind lately because it happened because I was at church one time. And being in a church setting for me is very intimate. And I don't like anyone to come to church with me because I'm like praising the Lord and it's just weird. I don't know, for having someone next to me that's like my love interest and I'm over here praising the Lord, crying and screaming hallelujah. But it wasn't until my best friend, Jasmine, started coming to church with me and she was praising the Lord, I was praising the Lord. And I was like, this is a different level of intimacy that I would want everybody to have. And it's just different types of intimacy. So you can have an intimacy, like an intimate conversation, a physical intimacy, a spiritual intimacy, physical, like running intimacy. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. That's just been on my mind. I just want to see how I can like continue to be very intimate with the different people in my life because it just feels good to be engulfed into somebody. Yeah, I love that. So I always look for that, and I think that's one of the strong tips that I have. You were talking about making someone feel like they see themselves, and I feel like that's one thing that I do bring to almost everyone I date, almost to like my detriment because then they don't want to leave me alone. But it's still good, right?
Yes, yeah. You're the Oprah seducer.
Yeah, I am. So I've been learning a lot from myself from your book, which is amazing. And what I like about it is it guides you. And I think it's so funny because I was thinking about this in the car. And I was like, I'm a person who really needs to be guided. Like my first orgasm, like I didn't think I could orgasm because I've never orgasmed in my life until this year, and it wasn't until someone literally took their time, told me exactly what to do, that I was able to do it. And I just feel like it's the same thing like throughout this book. I know it's a weird correlation, like someone to guide you step by step so you can have that relationship that you're looking for. But lastly, I know we talked about all the inner work and all these intricate
well, congratulations on your orgasm. That's awesome news.
Girl, I'm like, what?
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you. I was like, what? I was so happy. And then it was so easy, like the next few times. And they didn't even have to like penetrate me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, what is going on? And that's another intimacy thing. I was like, wow. Girl, no one knows this. I didn't even tell my best friends.
Oh.
but when I was thinking about how to be guided is very important for some people to really be guided through different processes. But lastly, I want to get into if you have like 3 tips, like outer tips, like the triangle, eye lingering thing for us girls or guys to use when they're out and about trying to spot somebody.
Yes, so let me give my favorite 3. So one would come from Ari Fitz. She was the flirting expert in the book. And Ari said that when you really know and love and accept what's great about you, you don't put anyone else above you. So if there's no more fear of approaching people because you're just like, here's another human, I'm a human, let me see what they're about. Like you approach them with curiosity, not with a need. And as long as you can do that, of never like, I want this person to like me, I want this person to notice me, versus what's this person about? Are they interesting to me? Can they bring value to my life? So that mindset, I think, is really important when you go out, of reframing it to let me see if people will like me, to let me see who's interesting enough for me to hold an enjoyable conversation with. And a tip I can give to get into that mindset is the job perks. And so part of the book, I talk about making that job listing. But at the bottom of the job listing, it's not just who I want, who's my dream person. It's what are you going to get when you date me? Like as a company, what am I offering you? 2 weeks vacation, office with a view. But it's not that. It would be more like, I'm an Oprah. When you're around me, you're going to feel like you are a reflection of your highest self. Yes. I am extremely spiritual. I'm not all saying things you are. Yeah. I'm really spiritual. I have a great relationship with God. So when you're with me, if you're looking for spiritual fulfillment, I can be a great guide for you. You know what I mean? I'm an extrovert. I have a lot of great friends. My brother does this and like he has a great network. Like you're really saying this is all the awesome things that come with me. So if before you go out, you can remind yourself of why you're an amazing person to get to know, why anybody would be lucky to be a part of what you have to offer and to be able to experience a fraction of that. So when you do that, just prime yourself to say, hey, I'm really funny and I have a great sense of security and I have an amazing collection of shoes and I give great blowjobs and I make really good orange chicken. Whatever it is that you're like, I master this shit. And if you have the privilege of getting to know me, you're going to get that in return. Remind yourself of that. And I think that will change your mindset going out. The second thing is just understanding, again, the proximity factor. Nothing is going to create a bond like proximity. So if you see someone that you like, maybe you feel comfortable approaching them. And if you do, to me, approaching isn't like, I think you're attractive. Will you like me because I like you? Approaching somebody is starting with a question, opening up a dialogue, or making a compliment to them, just doing something to start a discussion. But other than that, proximity is important. So enter their bubble. If they are by the bar, you go by the bar. Walk by a couple times, make eye contact. The more that you're around somebody, the more familiarity you can create, the higher chances you're going to have of connecting with them. Right. And if after you have made sure that your mindset is good, you have been in proximity to people that you actually want to connect with, the third thing would be to see if, can you go and make that first move? Right. Because connecting with people, and I say this all the time, I am really good at approaching people. I approach people probably 10, 20 times a day. Do I want to connect with most of them? No. It's just, it's a skill. Yeah. And this guy in the book, one of the dating coaches, said this thing that will always stick with me. He said, approaching women is a skill, just like riding a bike. Yeah. It's something that you do and you get better at doing it. So if somebody approaches you It just means that they're good at riding a bike. It doesn't mean they're not necessarily going to be a good romantic partner for you.
That's good.
The person who is a good romantic partner hasn't practiced that skill. So they're not approaching you because they don't like you. They're not approaching you because they haven't practiced enough in the world and they're terrified of rejection just like you.
That's so true.
Whereas then for me, I don't mind rejection because it happens to me a lot. Yeah. So I'm just like, it doesn't matter because I approach and talk to people so many different times a day. It doesn't always work out. And it's just a game of numbers. So I would say reframing it to say, okay, this person's clearly looked at me. We've had a couple of nonverbal moments. They're not coming over. Let me be the brave one because I know I have a lot to offer, and let me see if we can start a discussion.
I love that. It's just taking a risk. And I want to start off this podcast with asking like what your aha moment was this week, because I feel like every week we learn something new about ourselves. We're like, oh, I could use this into my life. And you literally said that. My aha moment was basically like going to Summit 21 and things like that. I'm surrounded by so many amazing women, and sometimes you could feel like, who am I to go approach someone to talk to them? But using that, do I feel I'm interesting? Will they be interesting to me? Is a really a good approach that I can use, because I have to like build myself up. Like, no, I got Soul Filling podcast. My boobs are great. You know, my afro is popping.
Yes.
And because we get so scared of rejection or what people think about us, and it's just like, it really doesn't matter if they like you or not. Can they add value to your life? You know, and that's really was my aha moment. So I'm like looking at you like, wow. So what has been your aha moment this week or this month?
I already said it, so I hate repeating myself, but because I was like, I want to give a fresh one for you.
Oh, yeah.
But it was that person talking about communication as like a negative thing. That a lot of times we think about communicating and that being an integral part of relationships, we do really focus on the negative side.
Yeah.
We don't really think about how communicating positively is also important, communicating what we do like and reinforcing behavior in that way. And I talk about in the book the yuck versus yum method, where if you want to tell someone something's not going right, you can say like, yuck, I hate Mac computers. They're so stupid and slow.
Yeah.
Or I could say, yum, when you brought your PC last time, it was so smooth and easy to work with. That was really cool. And you might be like, oh, maybe I'll bring my PC next time. Yeah. But I didn't have to like disrespect your current set of technology. You know, an easy example, of course, is kissing. You know, yuck, you use too much tongue. It's really gross. Or yum, that time when you kissed me and like you just gave me a little bit of tongue but not too much. It was such a tease and a turn on. So I think communication being a positive habit really helps us to communicate the tougher parts, the tougher, less positive parts.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take that with me, especially in my job. I'm just like straightforward, like, oh, I don't like that. Let's do it again. Like, now I need to give them positive affirmations to be like, I really like this. I saw that you worked really hard. I'm very grateful. Or I don't know how you said it. You said it so much better than me.
No, but I mean, I think they can be separate thoughts or similar, right? Like the compliment sandwich is the but, right? Like, your kissing is great, but you use too much tongue. I love it when you give me a little bit of teasing, but not too much.
Yeah,
that's when I'm trying to communicate something negative. But sometimes it's just like, just the positive,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, even like I said, like I could have when you came and been like, thank you so much for showing up on time. That was really, really cool of you. LA is hard. You don't live here. That was really, really sweet, and I appreciate that. Done.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Shan. We always ask this question, and I kind of want to turn it. You could decide which one you want to answer. So we either ask, what's your soul care routine, or how does your soul feel when you're doing what you love, and what is that?
I will say my soul caring routine, because I just came off of like a long trip. I am an ambivert, and that essentially means that I need time alone in order to perform extroversion. So for this past week, I stayed with my family. I went out, and like some days I was doing like 5 interviews. And so you're constantly giving like the best of your energy, and you have very little time to recharge. And I just came home and recognized how much I just need to be left alone right now. So like my soul care routine is acknowledging that my greatness requires a recharge, and that time alone is like face masks, it's running. Running is such a really, really big thing for me. I hate doing it, but whenever I'm doing it, I have my best ideas, and it's really great. My soul care routine also too is focusing. Like, even when we prayed, for example, one of my qualms with praying is that people just treat it like a minute of wishing, like it's like a wish factory, versus taking time just to be grateful and to sit in gratitude and just say, this is awesome, this is a great day. So I think for me too, spending less time on focusing what I want and more time being grateful for what I have. And that's like a note to self, because I don't do that enough.
Yeah. This is saying that you're like an ambivert and things like that. And I know you're super busy all the time. And I just really want to say, like, you're amazing. Like, I know you worked so hard through all these years and you really helped us, the people viewing, along the way. So I'm very grateful you didn't stop, that you kept going. And I'm grateful that you are, like, you hone in on the knowledge and that you really take your time and you really care about, everything in your industry. So it's just like, I really appreciate all the effort you put into what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That means the world. I think that that's a really cool thing, because like when I was your age, I was definitely at a super low point in life. And knowing that I pushed through that, like I appreciate, like I'm 34, so I'm kind of like an older head in this space. And I love that, because I meet so many people who are like, I just want to be where you are, or I am so disconnected in my life. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know this. I don't know that. And then I'm like, how old are you? They're like, oh, I'm 22. And I'm like, if I was 22 with the recognition that you have, even just recognizing that there's so much more that I want for myself is important, because we spend so much time in our youth glossing over, thinking about the important stuff, and just sitting in the excuse of youthfulness. But so if you are 21 or 27 and you're listening to this podcast, you are ahead of the game. You are ahead of me. And I am like really, really in awe, and I'm grateful to be around such like an empowered, self-aware generation, led by you, led by the work that you do. And so, yeah, I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of all your listeners, and I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you. Oh, one more question. With you being so busy and so amazing, how do you balance being so busy, so into your work, but being also able to not do anything, like to really relax? Because I'm really struggling with that. Like, I wanted to come to LA and I did want to interview you, of course, and just kind of chill after Summit 21 and like regroup myself. But then I was like, oh, I need to make this post. I need to make sure I interview Shan. I want to do this. I need to do that. Like, I just can't stop. And so I'm trying to ask, like, how can I be okay with not doing anything?
I think that's great. When you feel motivated, like there are days where I just feel really motivated and I have so much that I want to do. I just do it on those days. The worst is the days where I don't really want to do anything, but I think I should. And I actually end up producing subpar work or being on my phone for most of the day, procrastinating. Those are the days that's like, you really should just take the break. Like whatever 2 hours of average work that you did squeeze through this 8-hour day of forcing yourself, you would have been better off and better tomorrow just by breaking today. So I think it's just really about being honest with your mood and your vibe that day. So on days where you feel like exactly like you said, girl, work and don't feel guilty for it. Because tomorrow you may not feel that same energy, or next week or next month. Like you're going to ebb and flow through those times. And if you feel the burst to do. But when you don't feel like it, don't. And you're going to be so much better as a creative and as a content producer, honoring what you actually need in that day.
That's a really good answer. I wasn't expecting that. Like, I expected a good answer, but I wasn't expecting that answer. That's so good. I'm definitely going to take that. So, Soulmates, you know that we always end the podcast with a positive affirmation, because, words create the world around us. So, Shan, what is your positive affirmation for today?
Give me yours first, and I'll have time to think.
Okay, I'm going to say, I am grateful to be in your presence, and I am light. And my steps are ordered. I have so many.
Okay. I am productive. I have the space and time to connect with others and still get done what I need to.
I love that so much. And guys, if y'all do not get the Game of Desire, Like the way it's written, the experiments, the love that's put into this book. Go get it right now. Literally, I read it on Audible. So you can use your free credit.
Yes, it's free. If you go to audible.com/Shan Boody, preferably too, if you sign up through that. I mean, you can sign up anywhere, but then I get the credit for it.
Yes.
You will get the book. You get a 1 book trial, 1 month free on Audible, plus you get 2 Audible originals. You don't have to stay after the month.
Okay.
So you can get your free book, leave, and that's that.
Our Soulmates stuff free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Audible is actually amazing. I'm not like, it's not sponsored or anything. I literally listen to Audible all the time. Or I want to also get the book too, so I see them right here. I want you to sign one. But because I feel like it's like a workbook and I need to highlight. So where can they get it in stores?
Yeah, it's available everywhere that books are sold.
Okay, y'all better go out and get it. Support our girl, Shann, our soulmate. And where else could they find you? I mean, I know where to find you, but where else could they find you?
Anywhere Shan Boody, but you know what I mean? Like, I think you get one wish with people. My one wish would be the book. And if through the book you decide to follow me afterwards, great. But before you do that, I think the book is most important.
Yes, go get the book right now. Isn't it like top seller already?
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, girl, she's out here doing her thing.
Yeah, you got to do it for yourself, man. That's probably the biggest lesson I've learned through this publishing process. My first book came out with a really small imprint. This one was with a very big publisher. Some differences, but the one thing that was consistent is nobody's going to care about your work the way that you do.
That is so true. She just left us with a whole word. And make sure you following Soul Filling Podcast everywhere. That's SOUL space FILLING. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating and write something a little soulful and sweet so everyone can see how amazing Soul Filling Podcast is. That's it. That's a wrap. I love you guys so much. Until next time. And Jasmine and Kobe will be back. I miss them so much. Bye.